Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Zoe, and this is Words on Wealth, where I'll be breaking down all things money, finances, and how you can get them to work better for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about the lifetime ISA. This is something that we have available to us here in the UK as UK residents and taxpayers, and it's designed to really help those who are looking for a retirement solution or to buy their first property. But there's a lot of people saying that it is no longer fit for use. So I'm going to dig into what it actually is first and foremost, where the idea came from, who should be not using them and trying to avoid them, and who should be steering towards them, and crucially, what you could use otherwise if you don't opt for the lifetime ISA. So the lifetime ISA was introduced to replace the old Help to Buy ISA. The Help to Buy ISA was, clues kind of in the name, designed to help people buy some sort of property. The Lifetime ISA was introduced in around 2017, and there was a £4,000 per year limit placed on it. The Lifetime ISA was open for anybody from the age of 18 to 39, and like all ISAs, they have to be UK residents and taxpayers. Now, for all contributions made into the Lifetime ISA, the government tops up with a 25% bonus. So let's say hypothetically you use the full £4,000 per year allowance. The government will give you an extra grand, and that will take you to £5,000 in those savings. Sounds pretty cool, right? It certainly is. And it's worth noting as well that you can get the lifetime ISA in either cash or in stocks and shares format. So if you have it in cash, not only will you get the government bonus, but you'll also get the rate of interest that is offered with that lifetime ISA, growing it further. So if we come back to that example of 4,000 boosted to 5,000, it will still likely be higher based on the rate of interest that you're getting. You can equally put your lifetime ISA into stocks and shares and invest it into different stocks, funds, or ETFs, or whatever it is indeed that you choose. If this is the case, then again, the growth will boost whatever you have put in, whatever the government has topped up with their bonus, and then hopefully whatever it grows to. Of course, there's no guarantees there, but likely could outperform what we see of the cash one if you've got the time horizons available. Now, the key caveat when we're talking about the lifetime ISA is what you're going to use the money for. As I mentioned, there's two main purposes to the lifetime ISA. The first is buying your first property. You can use the savings that you've got from the lifetime ISA to buy, and it is a first property. Now, the first property has to be up to the value of £450,000. So if the property is above 450,000, you can't use the lifetime ISA savings to buy that property. And some people also get caught by that first property. If, for example, you own a property overseas or a property has been put in your name by parents, grandparents, whatever, then what you see as your first property may not actually be seen like that in the same way as the tax authorities, and you can no longer use the proceeds of the lifetime ISA to buy it. The second thing that you would use it for could be for retirement. You can start to withdraw from the lifetime ISA after the age of 60. So this could work for some that are looking to boost those retirement savings. And when you start withdrawing, in either situation, you won't be taxed when you take the money out. So this is where things start to get complicated and why people are starting to say that perhaps the lifetime ISA is not for everybody and is becoming a little bit outdated. Let's take a look first at that £450,000 per year cap. Now, depending on where you're based in the country, this may seem like quite a lot for a first-time property, but it could also seem like quite a little. In fact, if we look at the likes of capitals, so London and Edinburgh, as well as other areas in the south and southwest, it is not unusual for a first-time buyer to see a price tag over the £500,000 mark. This automatically wipes out the potential ability to use a lifetime ISA because, if you remember, that cap is at £450,000. And if we think about retirement, there is one more key caveat, which is that after the age of 50, you can no longer contribute to your lifetime ISA. So there's potentially a 10-year gap between turning 50 and turning 60, whereby you can no longer keep contributing, but equally you can't access the money. So you have to make sure that it is still in some way hopefully growing and working in the best way possible for you. Otherwise, you've got 10 years where that money is potentially stagnating and not doing a lot. Now, that brings me on to what happens if you do want to take the money out of the lifetime ISA. Well, you can take the money out. It's not like a pension in the UK where the money really is locked in and you can't get hold of it. With the lifetime ISA, you do have the flexibility to be able to empty it and access the funds. However, there is a penalty, and that penalty is 25%, which you might think, oh, that's all right, because that's what the government gave me in the first place. Actually, it's not, because that 25% is not just on the bit that the government has given you, but then it also forms part of your overall savings and contributions. So what it means is that you actually end up losing around 6.25% of your own contributions as well as the government bonus. So who can use the lifetime ISA then? Because it's not totally useless. And for me personally, there are certainly some people that can benefit from using a lifetime ISA. First and foremost, if you're in an area whereby the property prices aren't as high as what I mentioned there in London, Edinburgh, and the Southwest, then it could well be a great boost to help get you on the property ladder. Secondly, if you know that's going to be in the relatively near future, it may be worth assessing in terms of you're relatively certain on what things look like. And as a result, again, that bonus and that boost could be really, really helpful. If you're looking for a retirement top up as well, let's say you've already used your pension allowances, or perhaps you're in the public sector and thereby your pension is a little bit more rigid in terms of the age that you can access it, you may well use a lifetime ISA as a little top up and a boost. This might be done in your latter 30s, for example, again, when there's a bit more certainty perhaps around other pension provisions. But do remember, you can only open the lifetime ISA as it stands between the ages of 18 and 39. Of course, the big question is, are any of these aspects to the lifetime ISA, which are becoming a little bit penalising, are they going to change? It's a really good question. None of us have a crystal ball. We can't predict the future. The 450k limit may be the thing that does change. It could well be that it's updated to reflect inflation, changing property prices, and as I say, a growing trend of first-time properties being considerably over that threshold, particularly in certain areas. The old Help to Buy ISA, for example, had a different threshold for London to the rest of the country. It may well be that that starts to get introduced as a potential to try and get around this. But we have got a Labour government in position, and for the vast majority of the country, 450,000 is a lot for a property. And as a result, it may not benefit them to make these changes. They could also make certain aspects more flexible, be it the annual contributions, maybe lift or drop. Maybe they'll alter their overall government bonus, or indeed maybe they'll make it so that the penalty on when you withdraw is a little bit less brutal, for want of a better word. So without knowing if these changes are going to come into play and without knowing whether actually it's quite right for you, what else can you use? Well, there's a few main options. You could just turn to a regular cash ISA. Of course, you don't get the top up from the government, but you do have greater limits than £4,000 per year when it comes to saving. In fact, you've got up to £20,000 if you've not put money in other ISAs, and you've potentially got rates of interest that could keep things ticking over. Equally, you could use a stocks and shares ISA in the same way. Both the cash ISA and the stocks and shares ISA can be accessed at any point, and they are not tied to a specific purpose, such as the purchase of a property. As a result, they may well offer a bit more flexibility, and depending on your time horizons, it may well mean that you can equally grow the cash, albeit without the government bonus. And if you're looking for something for your retirement, that pension saving that I've mentioned could well be done via the likes of a SIP, which is a self-invested personal pension. This is just another vehicle, and it has slightly less flexibility than that lifetime ISA because it can't be accessed until you really are at a retirement age. It'll be around 57, I believe, for most of us watching this video. It does come with slightly different tax benefits as well. I'll cover that in a separate video for anybody that is curious, because pensions, a whole other world. So to conclude, the lifetime ISA certainly is still useful for quite a lot of people, but it is not for everybody. And you need to make sure that your circumstances align with the restrictions around the withdrawal of the lifetime ISA before you leap in. And I certainly found it useful when I was buying my first property, but I equally know stories of close friends who unfortunately have faced the penalty because they were not able to buy a property in an area whereby the costs were lower and they needed the money to try and help get on that property ladder. It swings and roundabouts. There is always pros and cons and lots to weigh up, which of course will be unique to only you. So hopefully this was helpful. Do make sure that you like and subscribe if you do like it. I'll have another video like this coming on pensions in the next few weeks. And let me know in the comments as well if there's any topics that you really want breaking down for you. I'm very keen and all ears. Have a lovely day and a great week.